Alright, so I'm gonna talk about my moms. I like my stepmom. She's the one who is bitchy up there in Washington State on one of those videos. But I like my stepmom. She's a genuinely good person. And while I was up there in Washington State the first time with my dad, she didn't defend me, but she did talk to me one-on-one on at least 2 separate occasions to apologize for the way my dad was acting and the way that he was treating me. Of course, she was also making excuses for him while she was doing it. Oh, you know, he's just that way. Yes, I do. Same thing with her daughter. Her daughter's name is Dana. But Dana, she's in her 40s, possibly almost her 50s now. And yes, she still lives with my dad and his wife. Now, what's the point of all this? Well, I'm going to tell you about my mother, my real mother. Her name is Angela K. Wade. Now, a lot of people wanted to pretend like I'm some sort of a predator because me, at 39 years of age, well, because when I was younger, I was friends with someone who was how old? How old was Natalie? She was 18. We didn't become friends or hang out at all until she was a legal adult. And the most we ever did was hold hands. And people want to pretend like I'm some sort of child molester or rapist or sexual predator because of this. I'm going to tell you something. My mom had sex with people that I went to high school with. All right? These people were in high school. Natalie Marie Bollinger was out of high school when we started hanging out. My mom was having sex with people who were in high school. This woman has, at this point, my older brother was already out of high school. He was already out. Yep. Now, I don't have any real emotional attachments as far as my friend having sex with my mom. It doesn't make me angry at all. But it really puts into perspective why it is that my mother would protect my child molesting little brother. It really, really puts it in perspective. Now, are you guys going to judge my mother, who had sex with a high school student, the same way that you treated me for being friends with Natalie? I want to know that. Now, while I was in jail in Scottsbluff last December, one of the therapist ladies who works at both the jail and the Scottsbluff Hospital, both of whom I was trying to take to court after what they did. I mean, seriously, nobody should be tortured in a fucking jail. If you're trying to turn in a police officer, well, you have to go to the police, and that allows them access to harm you and also to destroy evidence. There are repeated videos on my YouTube where I spoke to police officers. Police officers did wrong shit. And when I tried to turn in that officer for the wrong shit that he did, that officer was the one who got back to me. When my phone was stolen up there in Washington State the first time, and the young woman who stole my phone Well, I was able to get it back, and of course that's all documented on YouTube. And then my backpack was stolen, and I was able to get that stuff back as well, and that's documented here on YouTube, including a lot of the paper evidence that I had to collect not once but twice. Once over by a church there in Washington State, and it was a homeless person who helped me to go find it. Another time, behind the little strip mall there up in Washington State, and it was a security guard who helped me to find it. Now, I do have a major issue with all of this bullshit. I really do. Because the Officer Schneider, well, I was trying to turn him in for his conduct. I brought him the man who stole my backpack and 2 witnesses. And he got into his vehicle and drove the fuck off. And the conversation, that's actually on video. Now, the 5 or 6 calls that I made to his department about that scenario are also on video. Several of the people who worked at that Starbucks, I also have on video talking about that situation and several others that happened up there, where the police just simply would not do their goddamn jobs. Now, the officer in question, his name is Officer Schneider. And what happened with Officer Schneider when I tried to turn him into his superiors? Well, it started off with them playing dumb. And obviously, I was very clear in my statements about what it is that I needed. And the dispatch played fucking stupid. And I needed to talk to his superiors. And who was it that called me back? That's right, Officer Schneider. And in a later video, the very same place, very same exact location, within about 50 yards or less, probably less, his fellow officers claim they don't know an Officer Schneider. Here in Chapel, Nebraska, also on video, I attempted to explain to dispatch that I didn't want Sheriff DaCosta anywhere near me because I was trying to press charges against him, and it represented a safety issue, as well as Deputy Hahn. And what happened? Deputy Hahn called me back. And when I called back dispatch to let them know how displeased I was, they tried claiming that I didn't say anything about Deputy Hahn. I absolutely did, and it is recorded and it is on my YouTube. That's the thing. Having to go to the very same people who are covering up the crimes of themselves and their fellow officers, having to go to those pigs for help is fucking disgusting. Pigs covereth for the wrongdoing of pigs. And no, I cannot, in good conscience, call them public servants. I cannot. These people have the mentality of middle school bullies. Now let's imagine if you have to go to the principal to tell on the middle school bullies, and let's say your middle school bullies are all the football players in the Pee Wee football team. Now let's imagine that the principal is another Pee Wee football player on the same team. Yeah, imagine that. That is what it's like. You have to go to your predator's friends to get them to investigate these predators? Fuck that. And it's happened repeatedly. Now you notice that I have been attempting to work with the police here, but without someone to go in with me to guarantee my safety, to make sure that they don't do the things that they have done previously. I'm screwed. They have done things illegally and immorally so many times. Now then there's people like Polly Olson. Polly Olson is not a bad person. However, she is friends with these officers by her own admission. And I can't tell her what these officers did because they're her friends. If you can imagine that. I know I certainly can. Many of my predators are friends with my witnesses. And because those predators are there in that vicinity and I'm not, I don't get heard. But they do. They get to slander my name, resulting in harm to me, and there's nothing I can do about it. Meanwhile, because of the things that police did nationwide to cover up the wrongdoings of their own officers, to ignore the theft of evidence repeatedly, well, it is my firm belief that every officer in America needs to be fired and we need to start over from scratch. There's a lot of people that went and slandered my name. Like, when I was letting Miss Brenda know about some of this stuff, or at least trying to, she asked me about what happened in Wyoming. Now, did she take a look at the videos? No. Did she listen to my side of what happened? No. She listened to Amy Spencer, who she's friends with. So Amy Spencer got to be heard, and I didn't. Meanwhile, was Amy Spencer there? No, she wasn't. Rihanna was there. And I recorded the phone call between me and Rihanna. By the way, there's a protection order by the state of Wyoming that says that I can't talk to Rihanna. Rihanna doesn't care now, does she? She doesn't seem to be worried that I will go harm her at all, does she? Of fucking course not. Neither is Brenda. Neither is Amy. And by that same note and that same token, Alycia Bollinger, at no point in time was she ever afraid that I would actually harm her. Neither was Natalie. They were not afraid that I would chop them up into pieces and feed them to their dogs. They weren't afraid of any of that. What they were afraid of is that someone would believe me. Because I had a reputation for being honest and for sticking up for people, including them. The only time that I lied is when I had to try to force the police to do their goddamn jobs, to try to force an honest day in court. And instead, they did everything in their power to prevent me from being able to go to those court dates while I was being physically and psychologically tortured in the jails by officers. People keep telling me, you know, Sean, if you'd have just shut up, it would have all just gone away. No, the fuck it wouldn't. No, the fuck it wouldn't. Police need to be held accountable for their crimes. Having a badge does not make it okay to harm another human being. Calling them mentally ill does not make it okay to ignore the crimes against them. Stealing their evidence and refusing to take a look at it does not mean that the crime was not committed. If you are an officer in America, well, I can't have any respect for you because you have no respect for the Constitution of the United States. You know what socialism is? It's the idea that that document applies equally to all of us. All of us. That means even the homeless, even the mentally disabled and the physically disabled. There are a lot of homeless veterans. You say how I need to respect veterans. I do. I respect them as human beings, though. I don't respect them pointing a gun at a foreign child in a foreign country for a bunch of rich assholes who are just going to throw those soldiers away when they get home. I know so many homeless soldiers, so many homeless Marines, so many homeless. And what do? You want to stick up for the current soldiers. We got a lot of soldiers who returned home from Iraq and Afghanistan and shot themselves in the fucking head because they knew what they had done was morally wrong. Officer William Barr, he married Jessica Martindale. Her name is now Jessica Barr. He was an officer in Colorado when Natalie was killed. He spoke with me on several occasions about the situation, including one of the situations where I was at the location where Natalie was killed, McIntosh Dairy. Yes, I went to McIntosh Dairy. I left a sword there and my Bible. As far as the whole in love thing is I don't fall in love. Natalie thought she was in love with me, and that is repeatedly in our Facebook Messenger, where she thought she was in love with me. No, it wasn't reciprocated, but I thought she was wonderful. She was the most wonderful person I ever met. But people did terrible things because she was afraid to tell them the truth. She didn't want to get in trouble. She didn't want them to think less of her. She wanted her family to love her. Her family doesn't love her. They never did. They don't love Alycia either. You know who does? I do. Even after all the fucked up shit that she did. If she showed up here in Chapel, Nebraska today and said, "Sean, people are trying to kill me," fuck yes, I would defend her to the death. If somebody wanted to shoot her, they'd have to shoot me first. When Natalie disappeared, despite all the fucked up shit that she did, I tried my best to help find her, to help get her safe, to help find her killer. Yeah, that's the kind of person I really am. Despite all the fucked up shit that Jamie Curtis put me through, when she needed my help to get away from James, I showed up and I helped her to move. See, that's the thing, is that I'm willing to forgive people. Despite the fact that Derek Jepson threatened me with bodily harm. When he talked to me like a human being, that is all it took for me to forgive him. That's all it took. And yeah, despite the fucked up things that those daughters of Amy Spencer's did to myself and Rihanna while I was there, I still spoke up for them. I still spoke up for them. I still protected them and defended them. And despite the fucked up shit that Rihanna did to me, the fucked up things that I had to endure because she was not honest, because she's an alcoholic, despite that, yeah, I still love her, and if she needs my help, she's gonna get it. To the best of my abilities. If Alycia Bollinger needs a safe place to go, I can't provide her with a roof. But you know what? I'll make sure I find her a fucking blanket. I'll make sure that I find a safe place for her to sleep, and I will keep watch while she sleeps. When Emery and Arturo were in those sleeping bags with Natalie and Alycia when they were 13 years of age under the Boulder Public Library in Boulder, Colorado, one of those men was in a sleeping bag with Alycia. The other one was in another sleeping bag with Natalie. That's not how it's done. That is not what you do. Natalie and Alycia, they could sleep in the same sleeping bag together. Or you stand watch. You stand watch and keep them safe while they sleep. That is the right thing to do.